Hello and welcome to episode 2 of Aztecs All In, your San Diego State Athletics podcast, where our one and only focus is Aztec sports. These are exciting times for SDSU sports fans, and today we're going to talk about the ever-changing fortunes of San Diego State sports. I'm your host, Weiner, along with Steve Perez. We are two SDSU alums with decades of experience in broadcasting and local media. Steve, how are you doing?
Lewis, I just want to reiterate that I'm not only an alum, but I am an Aztec for life. I've got the little brick on the front of the Alumni Center in San Diego State to prove it. And
how much did you pay for that privilege?
Have I ever shown that to you, Lewis? Have I ever shown you that brick that's got that?
Many times.
Yeah. Also an award-winning career journalist, the owner and operator of a production company, career sports fans, radio, TV, newspapers, cable TV, the interwebs.
As for me, I retired a year and a half ago after 37 years at CBS 8 as an Emmy award-winning newscast producer. But I got my start sports producing for Ted Leitner, probably the worst 6 months of my life, which leads us to our first guest today, my longtime colleague at CBS 8, sportscaster John Howard. John, thanks for joining us today.
No problem at all. Now, why were those 6 months with Ted Leitner so long? I worked with him for about 5.5 years. Piece of cake.
We could do a podcast just on my 6 months with Ted Leitner. I'll say that he used to do that segment called Son of Sports. He did 2 segments, right? One in the first half hour of the news and one in the second half. And Ted wasn't always on time, so he'd often he'd arrive just as the newscast started, and I'd have a pile of tapes, not knowing what he wanted to do. So we butt heads, but we get along great now. Whenever I see Ted, he's a great,
maybe we can get him on sometime to talk about those days and talk about the Aztecs.
Maybe we could. Great. But today's focus, John, is the Aztecs. I mean, you got Snapdragon Stadium, you got the Final Four, you got possible conference realignment. What is your thoughts about all that?
Well, I think it's a wonderful time to be an Aztec fan. Not to mention the San Diego State softball team that just made it to the super regionals of the softball tournament. So that was nice to see as well. You know, Lou and Steve, it's almost surreal to me that the Aztecs basketball team actually played in the national championship game. And even though I got to travel and be with them the entire time, it was different doing that than just sitting back and waiting all afternoon for the game to tip off. It's still hard to believe that we actually were in the national championship game. And I think part of that also for guys like us that, our school days were back in the 80s, we've been following this team the better part of 40 years, and that just doesn't happen. So it is a great time to be an Aztec fan, no doubt.
Lewis, you made a trip there as well. So what were your recollections of that time?
I saw John there with our sports producer, Todd Villalobos, Jake Iriani. It was just an exceptional time. Really exciting that the Lamont Butler shot at the end of the FAU game, that place just went crazy. I've never seen so many Aztec fans just so excited at once. And I just watched it back the other day on YouTube, and it gave me goosebumps again. And it was just quite a moment for Aztec sports. Absolutely.
Hey, John, I know you guys on TV are kind of obsessed with the ratings. Do you make anything of the fact that 2023 national championship game was billed as one of the least watched? I mean, a mere 14.7 million, as opposed to some of the bigger, like the Kansas Syracuse one from 2003.
Well,
anything there?
If national basketball fans don't appreciate a great team like the Aztecs, going for a national championship, that's their problem, not mine. I thoroughly enjoyed the fact that we were there. And it's interesting because for decades, we sit and we watch the March Madness, and we have the Loyolas of Chicago and the Butlers, and we have these teams that kind of make their appearances, make deep runs, and then disappear again. And I'm just hoping the Aztecs, can stick around, and maybe this is what got us over the hump. One of my biggest frustrations as an Aztecs basketball fan is that we always seem to be 20 to 25 in the nation, and maybe we work our way up to that, and then we lose, and then we're out of the rankings, then we're back in. And this past season, I believe we were in the preseason ranking at 17, won a couple of games, and then didn't do well at the Maui Invitational. We slipped out, back in, out, back, out, in, and finished the season 16th going into the NCAA tournament. And it's like, okay, the whole regular season came and went, and we improved one spot. And my hope was that, since we had started ranked at 17th in the nation, I'd like to build from there. And that didn't happen. But I'm hoping that this postseason run maybe kind of gets us over the hump. And now we are permanently right around 20th when the season starts. Not hoping that we're in the preseason poll, but that we are in the preseason poll and build from there as the regular season goes on.
Part of the success of the Aztecs recently, you have to give credit to J.D. Wicker, the athletic director, who has accomplished quite an impressive credentials here at San Diego State. And, you go back to past athletic directors, you can go all the way back to Mary Alice Hill. John, remember that when we were at school, and Mike Bone, Rick Bay, who was quite successful, and Jim Sturk. But J.D. Wicker has really taken it one step above that. What do you seem to think about J.D. Wicker's influence on the program?
I just think he's a guy that knows how to get things done. And when you look at the Chargers leaving town, the Spanos family and the city of San Diego, they couldn't get it done. And if the Spanoses were a family that could get things done, or if our local city political leadership were the type of individuals that could get things done, the Chargers would still be in town. But that didn't happen. J.D. Wicker, he was told, you can't get a stadium for the Aztecs in Mission Valley. The big soccer support and run for the soccer community wanted that land as badly as the Aztecs did. But Wicker got it done. He got the right team around him to win that vote. And then he got the California State University system to help fund and help create what we see now as Snapdragon Stadium. And now it's only expanding with the MLS coming in and being a tenant of San Diego State instead of San Diego State being a tenant to the Chargers, which is wonderful. I got so tired of the Aztecs being second fiddle to the Chargers at Qualcomm Stadium. It just drove me batty, and it was not a nice place to watch a football game as it continued to age. So I think Wicker is a guy that knows how to get things done. And the biggest thing, as we kind of very briefly touched on at the top, can he get the Aztecs into the Pac-12? It'll be very interesting to see. I think most people know we're waiting to find out when ESPN and the Pac-12 reach a television rights agreement. Very dicey to do that these days because that model might be somewhat outdated. You look at the Padres and Bally Sports going their separate ways because Bally couldn't generate enough revenue to keep their end of the contract. You'd hate to see, the Pac-12 reach an agreement with ESPN, Aztecs jump into it, and then bam, in 2.5 years, the agreement is up in the air and the conference is falling apart. Not that I'm predicting that, but just hoping to avoid that. So to get back to Wicker, I think Wicker is plugged in with these Pac-12 commissioners. I think the invitation is basically sitting on the desk, waiting to be responded to, but they can't have a response until there's a TV rights deal between the Pac-12 and ESPN.
A guy like Wicker, this stuff doesn't happen overnight. And Richard Johnson from Sports Illustrated recounted it. Now, you've probably heard this anecdote as well, but he's telling the story. Wicker tells a story of he's going through Times Square in 2017, and that's right after they announced the plan to build the Snapdragon Stadium. And he's seeing billboards in Times Square promoting Oregon's Joey Harrington for the Heisman Trophy.
Oh, yeah. And
so Wicker comes up with an idea of his own and gets a local marketing agency and another partnership with a PR firm in Manhattan, and they take San Diego State nationwide, and they buy space in USA Today, and they buy billboards, across Indianapolis during the 2022 College Football Playoff National Championship game, and then bingo, they're here in the Final Four. So that's free, that's bonus. But that started with the vision, and so you have to credit him with not only having the vision but being able to execute.
Yeah, I do know. I talked to one of his. One of his good friends or somebody that's really plugged. I got to kind of protect the source. But I was chatting with him the other night. Hey, what's the latest on Pac-12 and the Aztecs? And he goes, same thing, just waiting for the TV rights deal. And I said, I've got some buddies that fear the Pac-12 is already falling apart. That Colorado's going to leave, Utah's going to leave, and these other schools might be going to the Big Ten or wherever else. And my buddy told me, well, JD has had conversations with these other Pac-12 commissioners who have said, if the Aztecs are that team that's brought into the conference, they're sticking around. They want that Southern California market. And so now granted, and my source is very good, and I'm sure JD Wicker has had those conversations, and I'm sure those ADs have said something as such. Look, you come in, we're sticking around, we're not going anywhere. Now, granted, we all know how much credibility there can be in a handshake or a verbal mention that, yeah, we'll stick around if you come in. But when another conference comes and is waving tens of millions of dollars at you, more than what you'd make as a member of the Pac-12, maybe their conversation with JD Wicker will go out the window. But that was the one tidbit I got the other day was, with a fear of the Pac-12 dwindling or going away, JD Wicker supposedly has been told by the athletic directors, hey, if you're the team that comes in when this TV rights deal is agreed to, we're sticking around. So for whatever that's worth.
Right. So these successes the Aztecs are dealing with right now, I mean, these aren't the first time San Diego State has had success in, we have Marshall Faulk, the Tony Gwynn years, as a basketball player, baseball player, as coach, the Don Coryell years. We were in the Holiday Bowl in '86. That was a big moment then. And going all the way back, if you remember, the basketball did have success years back with Smokey Gaines and the Michael Cage, Leonard Allen, Anthony Watson teams that went to the NCAA tournament, and they lost to a St. John's team with Chris Mullen and Walter Berry. So there have been successes here, but this seems a little bit different, huh, John? This seems bigger.
I think it's bigger because, basketball, a run to the national championship game, it's like, come on. It's not a fluke. It's the result of 25 years of building by Steve Fisher and Brian Dutcher. And football, I don't know the number, but they've been invited to X number of bowl games. It's like 12 of the last 13 years. Football has established itself as being a solid program. I'm kind of questioning last year was not a good season for Aztec football. Were they 7-6? I don't know if they were. But it was the first 5 games. This offense could do nothing. It was a boring product on the field, and they kind of saved things a little bit the second half of the year. I think football would have its work cut out for itself to join the Pac-12. I think we do well against the Pac-12 when we play 1 or 2 teams a year. I think our players get up for it, and I think they play maybe a little bit above their level. But if we were to join the Pac-12 and now the Aztecs have to play 8 Pac-12 games every year in football, I don't know how we would do right now with that. Whereas I think the basketball program, it's ready for the jump. If you had this Aztecs basketball program play a full slate of Pac-12 games, I think they would do well.
It would be just terrific to find out, to line them up and see what happens. Yep. I think it helps tremendously, just the program getting what you're going to reap just by virtue of going so deep into March Madness. The Mountain West Conference is going to reap $16 million, and the Aztecs are responsible for a big portion of that, and that bumps their annual share up like $500,000, according to a really complex NCAA formula. But that's something that is according to the Sportive website.
Lou, let me ask you your thoughts. Is the Aztec program ready to play in the Pac-12?
I think so. The football team has shown that it can play with the Pac-12. It's there were graphics up a couple of over the last few years because San Diego State has beaten so many Pac-12 teams that they put the Aztecs Pac-12 record up against the actual Pac-12 teams, and the Aztecs had a better record in the Pac-12 against the Pac-12 than the actual Pac-12 teams. So I think so. And from a basketball standpoint, absolutely. The Pac-12 is losing UCLA. They need another major basketball program to go in, and I think San Diego State fills that. What about you, Steve? What do you think?
It's all about what have you done lately. For years, we came to expect, especially during the Rocky Long era, no less than double-digit wins and appearing in bowl games. And this year,
Rocky Long era, not the Chuck Long era. Remember, don't
Rocky Long, yeah, Rocky Long, not
Rocky Long, not Chuck. Sorry, I just wanted to. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, we're clear on that. But to back up what John says about last season, especially with the brand spanking new stadium, to have the Aztecs come out the way they did was suboptimal. And now you have the basketball team. They've set the bar here. A game and a few minutes of strong hoops finish from a national title. So it's time for the football team to show up because the fans are leaning in and saying, what do you got?
Absolutely. John, I believe that's all the time we have. Thank you so much for joining us on Aztecs All In.
Well, you're welcome. That's quite a microphone you got there, Lou. You know what they say about a man and the size of his microphone?
No, John, I don't know what they say about that.
Big mic, big voice.
Big voice. So that is John Howard, ladies and gentlemen. John, thanks again for joining us. Steve, it's been a pleasure.
Especially thanks and appreciation to our guest, John Howard of CBS 8. And especially to you for tuning in or checking us out on Aztecs All In. Steve Perez for Louis Weiner saying so long, and we'll talk to you soon.